I get a question on Instagram about bloating in menopause. And should I take this supplement? Should I take that supplement? Do I need digestive enzymes? What do I do? And I thought it would be a really good question to bring here and share with you. Besides being completely fatigued in perimenopause, menopause, and sometimes beyond, gas, bloating, digestive issues tend to be a really common complaint of menopausal, perimenopausal women. This video and all videos on this channel are for education, conversation, and information only. This is not medical or mental health advice, so please seek help from your licensed healthcare provider, your licensed healthcare practitioner if you think you have a health condition, are struggling with a mental health condition, or if you feel like you have an eating disorder. I mean, this is a complaint that can happen at any stage of life. It can be quite common, especially if you're really, really stressed. So in this video, I hope that you will leave understanding the difference between two things, digestive bitters and digestive enzymes, and that you'll be able to decide whether or not these things are for you, because they're not for everybody. We'll talk about what digestive bitters are, how they work, different kinds of digestive bitters. I do have a link in the description for a bitter that I love to take in Canada. I'll also discuss some cautions for digestive bitters, and we'll address that ever-present question, isn't it just what I eat? Hi, my name is Tanya, and welcome if you are new here. If you are returning, thank you. I love to have discussions about menopause health, but in a way that is unconfined, where we're not stuck in a box. We're also different. We all have different ways that we want to eat, and we all have different needs. Not all of them can be addressed by a digestive bitter, but some of them can be. So if you want to have conversations like this, please hang out with me, subscribe to the channel. Let's chat. If you've taken digestive bitters and you love them, let me know in the comments. Have they helped you? Do you prefer digestive enzymes? Have you tried any of these? Throw a comment below. When I talk to women in menopause who have digestive issues, one of my first recommendations does tend to be bitters if that fits for them. Maybe you've not heard of digestive bitters. If you've had certain cocktails that are a little bit on the bitter side, like Campari and OJ or Campari and grapefruit juice, then you have had a little bit of a bitter. They are plant extracts that are exactly that. They are bitter. They taste like bitter. They've been around for a long, long time, centuries. Different cultures, different health philosophies will use bitters as a digestive aid. And you've probably seen some of them on a health food shelf if you've gone shopping at the health food store. You might even be familiar with some of them as herbal tinctures. And a great example is dandelion. If any of you grew up like I did with Eastern European parents, they ate dandelion. Dandelion was a thing in salads. Some people would put them in their sandwiches. That is really what's known as a digestive bitter, which actually brings me to say that you don't need to buy a supplement to take the benefits of digestive bitters, but we will get into that too. And there's more to bitters besides dandelion, although you can use a single tincture. There are things like gentian, artichoke, cinchona, bitter orange, burdock. There are so many. And you're not limited to tinctures. As I said, you can make yourself a salad out of dandelion. My neighbor is currently pulling them out of the front lawn as we speak. But you can get capsules, you can get teas as well. Yes, a simple tea like a peppermint, a chamomile, a fennel. Those can be digestive aids. Maybe not necessarily bitters, but they are digestive aids. The thing about having bitters in a tea, well, they might not taste as nice as a peppermint tea. My favorite bitter does come from Pasco, Canada, Amara Pasco. That's my favorite Canadian bitter. I do have a few favorites in the US as well, and I love digestive enzymes. So whether or not you're going to buy a digestive bitter or an enzyme, maybe we should talk about how digestive bitters work. I did touch upon this in a podcast episode all about digestion with Corinne from Spy Area Herbs. I have hooked up some of her videos there because I just love how she gets into that kitchen and gets messy. She shows us her whole garden, and she talks a lot about digestive stuff on that podcast episode. I'll link that in the description as well. Digestive bitters work by stimulating your entire digestive system. And maybe one of my favorite things about bitters is that they stimulate your saliva. I've talked before in another video, that's my lemon water video, about salivary flow, and that can change a lot in menopause. Menopausal women, even perimenopausal women, stressed out women, anyone who's stressed out can have dry mouth. So bitters stimulate saliva. When I was in dental hygiene, I wanted to talk a lot about saliva to people because we focus a lot on, what you eat. Does it cause cavities? And while that is a huge component of your oral health, your spit is everything. And if you're not making spit, you're not digesting and you're not even trapping bacteria in your mouth. Another thing digestive bitters does is stimulate what we call digestive secretions, gastric juices, digestive juices that come from different areas of the body, like your liver, your pancreas. Bitters stimulates that simply by the taste. And that's where having a capsule may not be as effective, because it's the bitter on the tongue that stimulates the flow of digestive juices. Now, another thing for some people that is a positive about bitters, stimulates poop. It stimulates a bowel movement. I can't tell you how many people, but how many people I do meet, women I meet, that aren't pooping. They don't go to the bathroom. It's still a twice a week thing. They're just not eliminating. And this is a key function of health. It really is. If you are not pooping, getting you flowing is really important. Now, that's not to say a digestive bitter is going to do all that for you in a bag of chips. It might. There could be other reasons why you're not going to the bathroom. I guess I should ask you to pop a comment below if you'd like to hear about elimination and bowel movements. I've changed position. I'm snuggling up with my doggy. Another really cool thing about digestive bitters is vagal nerve stimulation. If you've not heard of the vagus nerve, it's a really important nerve that connects the gut to the brain. It does a lot of other things as well, but vagal nerve stimulation is really important in digestion. And I do have some research in the blog post on my website all about the connection between bitters and the vagus nerve. And lastly, but not leastly, and definitely this is not a definitive list, bitters do help with blood flow in the digestive system. And when you have good blood flow, this will enhance absorption and circulation. You also do need to have good lymph flow in your digestive system. You have a lymph system in there. Look for an upcoming video all about the lymph system, because bitters can support that as well. So these bitter foods and bitters in general stimulate certain receptors in the mouth. They're called bitter receptors. They have lots of great scientific names in journal articles, but for the purposes of this video, unless you really want me to get nerdy, I'm just going to call them bitter receptors. And they're not just in your mouth, they're through the whole digestive system. The stimulation of these receptors can actually trigger a whole bunch of hormones that aid in digestion, and also the feeling of satiety. And that's something a lot of women struggle with when it comes to cravings. They struggle with weight loss, and then they struggle with the feeling of fullness. Now, that's not to say that I think you always need to worry about feeling full with not eating, but sometimes there is a little bit of a brain disconnect when you feel full, yet you still want to eat. And again, that's a whole emotional component too, biological, it's environmental. There's so many things to that, but bitters do have some science behind them as far as stimulating the full factor. And that also depends on genetics. We're all so different. I'm so full of dog hair right now. Okay. So when digestive bitters are consumed, they do help stimulate digestive juices, bile from your liver, but even digestive enzymes too. Your digestion is complicated. It's not just from the mouth to the butt. It comes from the pancreas, the liver, your gallbladder stores bile. There's enzyme release. There's things that happen in the brain. It's a really complicated process. And sometimes it could use a little helping hand just with some bitters. All of these organs work together with your digestive tract to help extract nutrients from your food. And if you are breaking food down more efficiently, then you might feel less discomfort, less gas, less bloating. So let's talk about some of the pros, the benefits of using bitters. Just like my tea here, they are natural. They're generally safe. They're free of harsh chemicals if you're buying something that is, of course, harvested properly. They really are a safe option for most people who want to try something natural before going to some type of medication for their digestive issues. Now, that's not to say that you shouldn't seek help for your digestive issues. Yes, you should always seek licensed care for any health issue that you have. But what makes bitters so easy is that they're readily available, they're easy to use, and they're pretty inexpensive. Most health food stores carry them. You can buy them online, like my favorite one in the comments, and you can even make them out of food. And a digestive bitter, as I mentioned, will improve overall gut health and digestion. By breaking food up, you actually can. And I've already mentioned that digestive bitters can be an excellent way to help with absorption and digestion, especially as we age. There's been a lot of different things that have gone through our digestive tract, bacteria, all kinds of other things. We've had inflammation, constipation, and your own endotoxins, your own bacteria build up in there. Digestive bitters can help with moving that, but also with breaking down food so you can get the nutrients you need for your brain health, your bones, your cardiovascular health, etc. I mean, all of this works to liberate nutrition from the food that you probably painstakingly choose and maybe prepare that you may not otherwise get. Maybe you are gulping your food because you are doing more than one thing while you're supposed to be having your meal. That doesn't help digestion either. Maybe you're a quick chewer and you get a little bit more air than you do food. These are the realities of life. We're stressed out sometimes and we just got to grab our food and go. And sometimes we've been taught to be fast chewers. So if you want to pursue a bitter, I am going to show you how to take that at the end of the video, but you can also eat bitter foods. I do have a recipe here for a chopped salad with some kale. You can use any kind of bitter greens. You can blend them in a smoothie. Yeah, honestly, they can taste good with fruit. Bitters can be used in many different ways, even as a whole food. Okay, what about digestive enzymes? Because I actually take those too. I have bitters and enzymes. What about those? What's the difference? So we mentioned that the bitters are herbs that trigger digestive enzymes and get the flow of gastric juices ready to break down the food that you're putting into your gut, whereas enzymes are a little different. Enzymes are special proteins like your own stomach enzymes that break the food down kind of on contact. So you would take these when you're having a meal as a little bit of digestive power to break the food down. It's not necessarily stimulating all the processes before, it's working on the food in your stomach. We have general categories of enzymes. Amylase, which comes from your saliva and your pancreas, but this is why I'm so big on optimizing your saliva. Lipase, that helps you break down fats. Sometimes people have a hard time breaking down fats, and you can see the evidence in the toilet. Lipase is super important when you need to break down your fat-soluble vitamins. And if you do not have a gallbladder, you might be lacking in lipase. What about protease or proteases? That's another group of enzymes that works on protein. And so when our enzymes are low, which they can be as we age, you might feel changes in your digestion, the bloating and the gas, etc. So they're both beneficial, but they both work in different ways, where one stimulates the process beforehand of digestion, and the digestive enzymes are there to stimulate the breakdown of food specifically. And yes, you can use them together for digestive health. For example, you take your bitters a bit before your meal to stimulate the digestive process, whereas your enzymes you can take with your meal to stimulate the breakdown of food. Because we're not just signaling the stomach with bitters, we're signaling all other organs as well. We're signaling other parts of the digestive process. Now, if you are looking at digestive enzymes, you're going to see some with hydrochloric acid. You're going to see some without. You're going to see some with ox bile. You might see some without. That's a whole other topic. So do your research on your enzymes to fit your needs. Are you thinking digestive bitters might be for you? Let's talk about some cautions with bitters, because there are cautions. Many people think because they take an herb, it's natural and it's going to, have no side effects, but that's not true. Herbs can have some side effects. If you have liver or gallbladder issues, any kinds of ulcers, any obstructions, then maybe you shouldn't be taking bitters. There are some cautions as to whether or not bitters interact with certain medications, so you need to check that out, especially if you have blood sugar medications and high blood pressure medications. And if you are pregnant, and just because I talk about menopause doesn't mean I don't have perimenopausal women who might get pregnant, you need to check with your healthcare provider and whether or not you should be taking bitters. And another big thing is, besides having to vacuum after this video, is whether or not you have an allergy to the plants in the bitters. So you can be allergic. When you look at bitters, there's always a lot of times a combination of plants and extracts in the tincture. So you need to take a check and see if you are allergic to the family of the plants. Some bitters contain the Asteraceae family, the daisy family. You might be sensitive to that. So always check the label, do your research. There's even things like a hypersensitivity to quinine, Peruvian balm, and some like the Amara Pasco contain cinnamon, which actually makes it quite delicious to me. I love the bitter taste of these things. So if they all seem safe for you, then maybe digestive bitters are a first start in seeing whether or not they calm the digestive issues that you might be experiencing through this midlife transition. Okay, so here is the other question. Is it what I eat that is causing the bloating? Yes, sometimes it is. Is it always just as simple as that? No. Not always. Of course, we can have sensitivity to food and we can be more sensitive as we age because we have a lot of changes in the gut. We also have changes in the stress load that is placed upon us. So when we are stressed, our nervous system does not really want to think about digesting. It's thinking about survival. So you may not have optimal digestion if you're stressed. That's one of the things I love about mindful eating. It teaches us some breathing to calm the nervous system, some really good physical takeaways when it comes to mindful eating. There's definitely foods that bother the gut, including things like soda pop, kombucha. Things that you think are healthy can bother your gut. Adding more legumes to your diet can bother the gut if you are not used to them. You may not have the gut bacteria to digest these legumes. And yes, there are people who may be bothered by dairy or gluten. That's the beauty of learning your own body and tuning in and making your own food choices. Non-diet approaches are not about just eating all the brownies. They really are about finding what works for you and really digging into why you might have a food bloating issue in the first place. Is it stress or is it the food itself? You need a wide variety of foods to feed your good gut bacteria. And without it, with restriction, you're actually changing your gut microbiota. Now, that's easier said than done. I've met women who say they can't even eat vegetables. Their bloating is so bad. That's where a little bit of investigative work and tuning in comes in. There's a lot of information on how to eat for gut health on the internet and a lot of conflicting studies I find too as I start looking at them. And again, I've hooked those up in the blog post that is linked in the description. I have an article that says too much of one thing may favor the growth of pathogenic bacteria, and they were specifically relating to protein. Yet I have met people who eat specifically a carnivore diet for health issues and they feel much better and they've lost some of their symptoms. Everybody is so different. There's pros and cons to everything. I mean, that same study talked about polyphenols in red wine and green tea and other foods that may actually reduce pathogenic bacteria, because pathogenic bacteria could be what's causing your gas and bloating. Carbohydrates get touted as the gut builders because there's so many digestible and non-digestible carbohydrates that feed the good gut bugs. It's mind-boggling. And this is why nutrition can be confusing and your gut can't live in a silo. There can be many factors as to why you have what seems like a food sensitivity or gas and bloating, and take a peek at your mental state, your stress level. How much do you chew? How much time do you take for a relaxing meal? Do you spend a lot of time skipping meals? Because that can upset digestion too. I've seen that in a lot of people, even myself. At the end of the day, it's a good idea to figure out why you might be bloating in the first place. And gas and bloating are actually two different things, where bloating is like this feeling of fullness. It can be like a feeling of swelling, and gas, I think, is self-explanatory. With two dogs here, I can definitely give you a definition of gas. I mean, we laugh about our kids who talk about potty humor. Gas, bloating, farting, it's a real thing. It's embarrassing. It's uncomfortable. It can sometimes smell, and people do not want to have this in their life, even though a little bit of gas is natural. So get curious as to why you might have these issues in the first place. Sometimes it is medication. Sometimes bloating is retaining water. Sometimes you might have a bacterial imbalance. And yes, certain foods, like I mentioned, the kombucha, the beans, the soda pop, and even foods that you might think are normal to eat might be causing your bloating. I actually don't like when I say the word normal because, like, what is normal? But I mean normal to you. Chewing fast will also increase bloating. So rushing through your meal, not chewing enough, that can definitely increase your bloating. We are supposed to chew quite a bit. That gets your digestion started, gives a chance for your saliva to drop into your mouth so you can digest whatever it is that you've decided to nosh on that day. And this is a controversial topic, but parasites can cause bloating. And definitely, if you are lactose intolerant, you will have some bloating. I promised that I would leave you with a how-to on how to take your digestive bitters. So I will walk you in the kitchen, and I'll be honest, I filmed it on a different day because this part of the video I started without my mic on. So my entire video was like this. Yep. Let's go take those bitters. So I truly do keep supplements on the table and handy for when I'm having a meal, and also for my family, because they like me will forget about them. So I will keep them on a little plate. I keep the bitters here. I also have, what do I have over here? I have some ginger, and I even have some digestive enzymes too, because we all have different, needs in the family. So let's talk about the tincture first. This one is my favorite. It is Amara Pasco. It's made by Pasco Canada. You can find the link below if you'd like to purchase. Okay, let's talk quickly about how you can take these bitters. All bitters are different. They have different directions, so always read the label. These particular bitters can be taken in water. Some bitters will say take them under the tongue. I have tried these, or take them on your tongue. I have tried these on my tongue. They are spicy. When you open them up, you're actually going to see that they smell kind of orangey and quite delicious. But really, you want to take them in the water. Now, the instructions on these bitters say to take 45 to 60 drops. You take it before your meal, 3 times a day. So that's 3 times, assuming that you're eating 3 times. And you're just going to want to drop it in your water. Put in, if you're new to digestive bitters, put in what you can tolerate. It's okay to start slow. So you're going to pop them in your water, and that's it. Now, these bitters say you can take them 45 to 60 minutes before the meal. So you need it to get through your digestive tract. And this is opposed to digestive enzymes, where you take them before your meal, like a 10 or a 15 minutes before your meal. Again, every supplement has a different direction, so check your label. Now, I've done many takes of these bitters over the last little while, so I think I need to go and eat something. And I don't think it's going to be a salad. I'm ready to eat dinner. I have been using Pasco products in my family since my daughter was in grade 6. Hopefully this video was helpful. If you have questions about your gut, menopause health, anything to do with mindful eating, food freedom, and making midlife nutrition easier for you, drop them in the comments below, and I hope to see you in the next video. Please subscribe, and thank you. Bye.